Weiss sucks! I hate this series. I hate this series so much that if someone told me that this entire show was manufactured just to insult me personally, I'd probably believe it. In fact, I don't even know where to begin with this piece of shit, because there isn't one frame of 1 second of one scene of this series that I don't find completely offensive in its laziness and incompetence. But I guess we might as well start with the premise, because once you understand the premise, you might understand why this entire show is such a spectacular catastrophe. Now look at this opening. What would you expect the show to be about? We got some admittedly cheesy action, maybe supernatural, some love or revenge or something. Would you think it's about flower shop assassins? Because it is. That's the entire fucking premise of the show. There are 4 guys.
Okay, who's buying flowers?
Oh, sorry. 4 gorgeous guys who are florists by day and assassins by night. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a student/shitty YouTube video maker by day and person sleeping in a fucking bed by night, but that's just me. I don't know, maybe being an assassin isn't as physically demanding as I think it is. To top it off, Weiss are probably the worst assassins I've ever seen on screen, but this show is so fucking insulting that we're not supposed to know that. I mean, they seem like alright florists, maybe that's just my own ignorance showing since I don't know shit about flowers, but they do seem to know a lot about floristing.
Are these bellflowers? I thought they only bloomed in the fall.
Those are spring lindo.
Huh?
They bloom in the spring.
Let's see. Lilies are nice. Not only do they smell good, but they look beautiful too.
So yeah, these guys are experts on flowers. I guess it's just the assassinating these assholes blow at. And when I say blow, I mean it. I don't know any more about being an assassin than I do about flowers, but I apparently know a lot more about it than these fuckers. The idea is that the flower shop is just a front for their real business, which is killing, and take a look at the level of secrecy and professionalism you can expect from Weiss.
How long do you think we're going to be able to keep this up? The Weiss.
The Shodik, or whatever they're called, know who we are now. We should lay low.
Yeah, I know.
It's way too quiet.
It's fine. There's nothing we can do right now.
Here, this one too.
Okay. Oh.
You shouldn't be talking about the mission here. Long night, huh?
So, find anything out?
No.
Yeah, it's always a good idea to talk about your secret assassin group during business hours in the business that only exists to hide your assassin group. That's nowhere near the worst of it, but in order to really understand the fascinating complexity of Weiss's suckage, we need to understand the big players involved. So let's take a moment to acquaint ourselves with this group of idiots.
Do you have the time to listen to me whine about nothing and everything all at once?
Okay, so right off the bat, you're gonna assume that Jailbait here is gonna be the most fucking annoying marshmallow of a character to show up in Weiss. And you wouldn't be far off, because this series does everything in its power to make sure that Omi constantly winds up either tied up, having a complete psychotic break, or just collapsing into the arms of another man. You'd assume that in a group of assassins, every person would have a specific role to play, but no. Omi basically is Weiss, because throughout the entire series, he's the only one who ever does any fucking work outside of killing people.
Do you realize how hard it would be to even come up with a list of suspicious facilities?
Nope. But that would be your job. You have 1 week.
What? Aren't you going to help me at all?
We're the action guys. It's your job to come up with the plans.
Seriously, need a hacker? Ask Omi. Intel? Omi. Medic? Omi. Mission reports? Omi. And this is on top of going out and doing missions and being a florist. Did I mention this kid's supposed to be 18? What the fuck? He's a student too? Does this kid have a fucking time turner or something? Oh, and it gets way, way stupider. I'm about to tell you 2 things that you are not going to believe. The first is that Omi's specialty, his weapon of choice, is a fucking crossbow. And the second thing, this is, by far, the least stupid weapon in the group. I will get to that later. Now, Omi's got a contrived and completely nonsensical backstory that shows up in the 7th episode of the series. Big story behind Omi is that he was kidnapped as a kid and his dad refused to pay the ransom money to get him back. Naturally, he has amnesia and doesn't remember any of this until some kid shows up who just happens to have escaped from the exact same kidnapping ring that nabbed Omi when he was little. And you know, it's always good to be finding out 7 episodes into a series that one of the main characters has been suffering from amnesia this whole time. Anyways, Omi and the rest of Weiss are taking the kidnapped kid back to his parents. Omi's memories start returning, and it isn't long before he's losing his shit and having a complete mental breakdown. The kid winds up getting kidnapped a second time, and right after the ransom call is placed, Omi snaps entirely and starts screaming for his daddy to help him right in front of the victim's already traumatized family.
Father, they'll kill me if you don't come!
Now you might be thinking that I'm being too harsh. Like, maybe you're saying, give little Marshmallow a break, he's only like 18, he's had some psychological trauma, so it's realistic that he'd be a little bit unstable. Really, voice in my head? You really want to bring realism into this? Okay, how about this? Why doesn't any other fucking character have a realistic psychological reaction and take crazy here off the case? And how the fuck does this amnesia work exactly? He gets kidnapped and suddenly his entire life is a complete blank, including his parents' faces? And if his asshole dad didn't pay the ransom, where the hell has Omi been living since his kidnapping? We know that his current boss, Persia, who gives Weiss their bullshit missions, was the one who rescued him, so did he just join Weiss? Wasn't he like 9 back then? Does Persia really recruit 9-year-old assassins? Well, given the fact that Omi has no fucking idea who Persia is or how to contact him, we know Persia hasn't been taking care of him, so what the fuck happened in the 9 or so years between this and this? And why would he join Weiss in the first place? If he doesn't remember the kidnapping, what is his fucking motivation for killing people? And why the fuck do I have to spend so much time trying to puzzle out the labyrinthine details of this character while I'm watching the episode dedicated to clarifying his fucking past? Alright, fuck it, I'm moving on. I have a lot more to say about Omi and his daddy issues, mainly because most of the series revolves around them, but I'm gonna save all that fun for when I examine the plot. For now, let's move on to the next head on our chopping block. Fucking Aya. Aside from maybe Omi, this guy has easily the most screen time in the entire series, despite the fact that he is one of the blandest anime characters I've ever been exposed to. Also, he sounds like Trent from Daria.
You're not a reporter, are you, sir?
My name's Aya. I work in a flower shop.
I've been practicing for 10 hours straight.
Daria, would you say sleeping with a guitar in your hands counts as practicing?
As long as you don't drop it.
Aya's story is that his sister was hit by a crime boss's car a couple of years ago, and now she's in a coma. In fact, Aya's real name is Ron, but he took on his sister's name so that her memory would live on, even though she's not dead yet. And that's it. That's all there is to Aya. We are never given a single further grain of character development from this asshole. He wants revenge for his sister, and that's all we get in 25 fucking episodes. His role in this series is pretty much to fly into an irrational rage whenever he catches a glimpse of the man who hit his sister and starts waving his katana, yes, his fucking katana, at anyone who tries to get in his way. Now, based on one very short exchange, I'm assuming that Aya is technically meant to be the leader of Weiss.
Save your bitching until after we found our target.
Yes, sir.
But if he is, he must be the most horrible leader in the history of any assassin group, because he spends most of his time fucking right off and doing everything he can to avoid anything to do with Weiss that doesn't directly pertain to his sister. Now, like I said, Aya hogs up a significant chunk of screen time in this series, and that's because this show seems to be suffering from the delusion that we give one fuck about this emotionless cock and the idiots around him. In episode 6, Aya catches a glimpse of a girl who looks identical to other Aya, and literally hurls himself into traffic to follow her. And no, the series never bothers to explain why she looks identical to his sister. Anyways, it turns out this girl had an organ stolen and... Okay, really? The old waking up in ice to find an organ missing cliché? Fine, whatever. Her case shows up as a mission for Weiss and Aya becomes obsessed with protecting this girl, so naturally he abducts her in the street.
Please, sir, I want to get out.
Don't be scared. I'm not a kidnapper.
It's funny that a girl whose name means cherry blossom is saved by a florist.
No! That isn't funny! Who the fuck acts this way? Oh, and things get really creepy really quickly with these two. I mean, honestly, look at this. Oh god, no! She's 15! Who animated this? And it's not at all exclusive to this episode either. The entire dynamic between these two characters pretty much revolves around Aya's twisted, smoldering desire to nail his own sister. But since there's actual incest in this series later on, and I am not kidding about that, I'm not going to make too big a point of it. Anyway, for the entire rest of the series, this chick Sakura shows up time and again to detract from the already meager and glacial plot and give Aya an excuse to act angsty and be a total dick to her. And naturally, Sakura is such a whiny, codependent doormat that she pretty much spends the entire series hounding Aya and being abused by him. And that's Aya, friends, the second most thoroughly unlikable character in Weiss. And you're probably assuming that the absolute most thoroughly unlikable character is Omi, but no, that honor is reserved for Yoji. Yoji is a douchebag from the beginning of the series right to the end, and even worse, he's a completely pointless douchebag. His character serves absolutely no purpose to anyone or anything in the entire series, including his teammates.
Alright, then finish cleaning him up and get to work on finding that helicopter.
Me? Again? What about you guys?
I think I'll take a nap. I mean, I can't let the girls see me all worn out with
douche.
Going to help Omi. Well, wait, what about me? We've got to get out of here.
Douche. In battle, Yoji is actually probably one of the more effectual members of the group, but that's only because his weapon is imbued with lazy-ass writer powers, because it's basically a magical wire that does anything the plot needs it to. I'm fairly sure that it's supposed to be a Garrett wire, and I've never personally used a Garrett wire, so I'm no expert, but I know that they don't fucking do this! Or this! Or fucking this! Now, I'm sure you're all tripping all over yourselves to find out Yoji's backstory, but you'll be immensely disappointed. Big story behind Yoji is that he used to be a private detective, but his partner and lover was killed on a case investigating a prostitution ring. Yoji joined Weiss to get revenge for her death, and while it's better than any motivation we're ever given for Omi being in the group, it's pretty much also a carbon copy of Aya's little revenge story, right down to a woman who's inexplicably identical to the woman he lost in his past. The only difference is that Yoji is forced to fight her instead of just being an asshole in her general direction like Aya. The third episode of the series revolves around Yoji as he returns to the prostitution ring with Weiss to bring it down, and they succeed. Yeah, it's always good when your character's dramatic arc hits its peak in the third episode of the show. But even though he manages to get the bastards who killed his lady love, he just sticks around with Weiss for no good reason for the rest of the series, much to my dismay. And that's pretty much the reason why I loathe Yoji so fiercely. He really has no fucking reason to be here, and so his entire character devolves into horribly ill-executed shtick surrounding his constant need to fuck something. This guy is a complete walking boner, and yes, it greatly affects his work. Like, remember that kid who was kidnapped in episode 7? Let's watch how Yoji acts when Weiss returns him to his mother.
No need for thanks, miss. Now, tears don't suit a beautiful woman like you. I really think this Catalia will suit you much better.
Yeah, you might want to wait until the 9-year-old who was just kidnapped is at least out of earshot before you start hitting on his mom, you douche. Or how about when the kid gets kidnapped again and they have to go searching for him?
Excuse me, I was wondering, do you happen to have a basement in this garage?
No, I don't think so.
Want to go for a drive sometime? You're kind of cute. I really like taking a ride, but not alone.
Yoji! Now is not the time to be flirting. Let's get going.
Well,
that's it right there. That's Yoji. Not funny, not charming, not anything, but a complete waste of fucking screen time. In fact, that entire scene pretty much sums up Weiss. The laughable animation, the horrible dubbing, the insultingly lazy voice acting, the utterly forgettable and atmosphere-crucifying music. I have never seen a series so obsessively determined to cram its own apathy down an audience's throat. Anyway, there's slightly more to Yoji's story, but again, I'll revisit that when I take a closer look at the plot of the series as a whole. And that's coming soon, so stay tuned.